Why do we feel so strongly about the times in which the games kick off around here? Let's discuss that next.
You are Locked On Nebraska, your daily Nebraska Cornhuskers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Locked On Nebraska podcast. Thanks for making Locked On Nebraska your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. I am Mitch Sherman from The Athletic. Connor Happer of 1620 The Zone is with me. We have made it to the end of another week and the end of another month, just about. Last episode planned, at least, for the month of May. When we talk next week, it'll be June, and Nebraska football will be convening for the start of its summer training regimen. We've got a mailbag for you today. Lots of stuff to react to from the week that was this week in Nebraska sports, starting with the big topic from Thursday. If you listen to our show, we went over the kickoff times, the news that was handed down from Fox and CBS, NBC, BTN, all of the TV networks in the league, that Nebraska will play Minnesota on the road October 17th. That's week 8 on a Friday night. That's the Huskers' Friday kickoff in the league, of course, ahead of Black Friday, which is an 11 a.m. kick in Lincoln. Both of those developments, Connor, stirred up emotions in the Nebraska fan base. And I say I was surprised. I shouldn't be surprised because it's this way every year. The amount of direct messages that I received, emails, various forms of communication, people knocking on my door. That didn't actually happen. I don't know. You roll out the football and you play the game when the TV networks that are paying you millions say you should pay the game. But this continues. It's always such a source of controversy. Last year, on a national level, in a league level, you had Ohio State fans who wanted to remove themselves from the Big Ten because they kept getting stuck at noon Eastern time. And here we have a much smaller example of that, with Nebraska fans being mad that the Huskers don't get a night game like Iowa did last year in the Black Friday series, and that it's a short week after the trip to the East Coast to play Maryland on October 11th, when the Huskers have to come back and play at Minnesota. If you're good enough, you will win the game. That's my take.
To be clear, I do wish the Black Friday game would have been a night game. I thought that was cool. I prefer it that way. I thought that was cool and well done by Iowa.
Yeah.
But I don't really, it doesn't really bother me that much one way or the other. And then if you play it at 2:30, it's dark by the end of the game, obviously on Black Friday. So maybe you could play it at 2:30 and get kind of the best of both there. Yeah. So I wouldn't put myself in the category of mad about it, or even that I'll really even think about it until the game comes along. And then I guess the other thing that people were angry about was the short rest thing, which we were reacting to the news as it was breaking. So I think we accurately predicted that on yesterday's podcast, that people were going to be angry about the short rest that week. So yeah, whatever. I think they'll get over it. I if it's Ohio State, complaining about the fact that they get noon kickoffs every week and they're a national brand and they want night games, I get it. Nebraska's they've had routinely a pretty good balance on their schedule. And you're gonna win some and you're gonna lose some. So I think this schedule is fine and equitable so far.
Right. Okay. Let's get to the questions. Oh, the one thing we didn't react to in our Thursday show was the Michigan 2:30 kickoff. We were speculating as we recorded that show that it could be 2:30 or it could be a night game. Well, it is 2:30. We didn't have that information when we sat down and recorded the episode. So there you go. You don't get the big noon. Presumably that's going to go to Bill Belichick and North Carolina at UCF, but that announcement was not made on Thursday. So Nebraska, Michigan, 2:30 on.
Let me say this real quick.
CBS. That's a
On
CBS.
CBS. Yeah. I find it interesting that the league's fans, the Big Ten team's fans' attitude on Big Noon Kickoff is that they don't want it. They don't want to be in those games. But the league itself's attitude they love the games because it gets them a lot of television viewers and numbers and things like that. So I'm interested to see if that ever comes to a boiling point, like with how Ohio State's handled this whole thing after the last year. I wonder if it ever will. Maybe not. But definitely there's a fork in the road here. There's a splitting off point between the fans and then the TV partners.
Yes. All right, let's get to the questions. Start with Justin in Lincoln, longtime listener, second-time writer from Lincoln. Hopefully there's a map in the pin, a pin on the map for Lincoln. Yeah, I think so. Let's do some research there. There's the map. Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah, there's a lot of pins in the state of Nebraska. Okay, I don't care if there's a football game on a Friday night or a Saturday night. I kind of like the Friday night game because Nebraska is one of the only games playing, so everyone gets to watch us whoop the Gophers, and that's a good thing. I woke up at 4 a.m. to listen to the Huskers play against K-State when they went to Tokyo some 30 years ago. That's clearly the most obscure Husker kickoff time I can think of in my lifetime. Any weird situations that you all can remember? So I'm there cheering for the Big Red no matter what. I remember that Fresno State game from a few years ago that started at like 9:45 Central Time. That was a late one. It's the COVID year. There were some weird kickoff times, I think. I mean, Justin brings up Tokyo, which, that was people getting up to listen on the radio, I believe, in the middle of the night.
First one that came to mind was the Fresno State game. That's the latest one I can remember. They've had some 8 o'clock. But nothing too unconventional. Obviously, the Tokyo one is super weird. And I don't think they've had anything start like before 11 o'clock ever. So
maybe a bowl game, maybe like an obscure bowl game started at 10 a.m. But play them when they say to play them. So Justin's other question, he said, I heard a podcaster mention that Dylan Raiola considered leaving the Huskers over the offseason. Who knows if how intently he considered it, but it was a rumor at least. Had he left, where do you think that would have left the Dayton Raiola situation? If Dayton was not committed, do you think we could have gotten Jet Tamala to come here? I was hoping we would get Jet, but then I realized it was Dayton's year as well, so I figured we wouldn't get both. I like our QB room, but it's clearly better with Dylan. Go Huskers, beat the Sooners.
Okay, wow, a lot there. I think if you, for whatever reason, lose Dylan Raiola, you definitely also lose Dayton Raiola. That'd be my guess. But
maybe. Yeah. I mean, he doesn't have the list of offers that Dylan did, but maybe if he went and did the whole circuit thing, he would.
I think it'd be pretty toxic around here if Nebraska lost Dylan Raiola.
Yeah, and there's always rumors about any player who is of his stature. Teams absolutely put out feelers to see what was going on with Dylan. I never got a sense that he had a foot out the door or even a foot toward the door. So
no, I don't think that was really like seriously entertained, but I think, people talk to people. So that's basically the extent of it as far as it as far as I understand it.
Yeah. All right. From Jake in Fremont, Nebraska. What's up with the connecting letters in the end zone? Love the red, but not the random few connected letters. That is puzzling. So he's talking about the pictures that Troy Dannon has been sharing on social media. There it is. If you're watching on YouTube, you can maybe zoom in or see that. So yeah, the K and the E on Huskers in the north end, the south end zone.
Are they actually connected, or is that just because the field goal post is in the way?
No, I think they actually are connected. If you look more closely at some of the other pictures from other angles, okay. And then there's one on the other side. Actually, the Huskers looks like it's in the north end zone, and then the Nebraska's in the south end zone. I don't know. Maybe I should be outraged here, but I'm not.
The only thing that I could muster up on that is I don't know why they didn't put, like, maybe it's just because it didn't fit. Like, they should have put Cornhuskers in the end zone. I don't like saying Nebraska Huskers. I don't like
saying Nebraska Huskers, but you don't have to. you don't have to. I mean, it does say Nebraska Huskers
Right.
on
That's what I'm saying.
the
Like,
field.
it's just a visually weird thing. Like, Nebraska Huskers is odd to see. So, like, if you're looking at it from an aerial view, your mind thinks Nebraska Huskers, and I think that's a weird thing. Like, I want it to say Nebraska Corn Huskers, but
There would be a lot there would be a lot of controversy, I think, if they put the corn on the field. Some people wouldn't
yeah.
like that, but
What if they
others,
just did Nebraska?
yeah, you could do that, or Huskers. Probably
Yeah.
Nebraska would be better.
Yeah.
Okay, let's take one more before this first break from Nathan in Kansas. In reference to your discussion about Nebraska's offensive line, it seems like, barring an injury, that left tackle, center, and right guard have well-established starters before camp. I do think the line is in better shape than it's been in a long time, but I'm slightly concerned with the other two spots not being as strong. How do you see left guard and right tackle playing out going into the fall? Any chance they would move Turner Corcoran into guard, and who emerges at those two positions between Henry Lutovsky, Corcoran, Teddy Prohaska, Gunnar Gatula, Tyler Kanak, and Grant Briggs, or someone else?
Yeah, I don't think it's I don't think it necessarily has to be a weak point just because those places haven't been decided yet. I think you're operating from a position of strength because you're not having to put too much on the, all those people that were mentioned in the question there, like Bricks and Corcoran and Teddy and Henry Lutovsky and Tyler Kanak and Gunnar Gatula. Like, if you got those 5 or 6 guys playing for 2 spots, that's a great situation, I think, in my opinion. So chances are you're going to be able to find you're going to be able to find 2 starters out of that.
They're in pretty good shape.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
They're in pretty good shape. Corcoran could end up anywhere. I think it's Lutovsky and Gatula if things work out as expected in camp in August. Lutovsky's got the edge and experience, and I think he can play left guard. And then Gatula was the left tackle last year for much of the season. I see him sliding over to right tackle, but Tyler Kanak got some good reps in the spring, so we'll see. It's not a bad situation. All right, when we come back, more from the mailbag, including a couple of hot takes from a YouTube viewer.
But first, a word from our friends from the FanDuel Sportsbook, where the NBA playoffs are now winding down, and there's something to look forward to every single night of the playoffs. So we want you to get in on the action, whether it is betting the spreads, individual player props before the game, or even during the game. That's where you can have an edge for yourself during the game. Yeah, that's right. In-game live betting, same game parlays, they're all available for you. It's not just the NBA, it's all across the board as well. So new users, $5 bet, you win that first $5 bet, and you're going with $200 in bonus bets where you can use that and spread it around to whatever you like. And yeah, you can get a little bit more liberal, I suppose, with the way that you bet when you have $200 in bonus bets in that account. So hit that first $5 bet and get going with $200 in bonus bets. So once again, a reminder to make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, welcome back, everybody. Connor Happer, Mitch Sherman with you here on a Friday mailbag. Thanks for being with us and appreciate you guys sending in your questions as well. As we continue on, Taylor from YouTube has got a couple hot takes in the mailbag. How about hot take? So we'll just react to these. I like this, by the way. You could send in just react, just things, and we'll just react to them. I like it. Taylor, he says, number 1, Nebraska is going to be 10-0 when they go to State College, when they go to Happy Valley.
Okay, that'd be great. That'd be a great storyline. That means that there are a ton of people caring about Nebraska football at that stage of the season.
Grade that on a scale of likelihood. It was 1 to 10.
3.5. Oh no, actually, I'll go 2.5.
Yeah, I was gonna say somewhere in the two range for me. But I like it. However unlikely, I like it. And then number 2, Emmett Johnson is a potential Heisman candidate. Once again, this is from a YouTube commenter.
Well, I mean, it could be from anybody, and I would say he would have to up the level of play that we saw from him over the first few years of his career. Has Emmett Johnson ever really looked like a? And
no,
I mean, he's The Wisconsin game was basically his best game, but I still wouldn't say that it was. If you watched Ashton Genty last year and then you watched Emmett Johnson in the Wisconsin game, you would notice a difference. So he's a good back. Like, let's not try to make him something that he isn't. And if he has done all the stuff in the offseason to like revolutionize his game and go up a number of levels and gotten faster and stronger and all this stuff, and he's going to be featured in Dana Holgerson's system, and now maybe you have the line in front of you. We talk about the line getting better. Like, could the stars align and he could become a candidate? I don't see it.
Okay, so let me put it this way. If Emmett Johnson, I hate to be so dismissive of this, but if Emmett Johnson had the Wisconsin game from last year 13 times, next year he will still not win the Heisman.
No.
Would he be like in the conversation for probably first team all Big Ten? Like maybe, because at that point you're like a 1,300 yard back with like you've had
win the Heisman. No.
You've had a great season. You wouldn't win the Heisman.
Yeah. Okay. More from YouTube, from DG on YouTube. Why is Nebraska bringing in this punter so late? Isn't this going to be difficult getting him and the punt team up to speed by the Cincinnati game?
Oh, well, the punters and the kickers, specialists, they live off in their own world. I mean, they come in with a very specific job to do. There is no real getting up to speed. I don't really think with those guys. So no.
Archie Wilson 3.0. That's what we're calling him.
Nice.
He's the LX model. Or put on. He was ordered from Pro Kick in Australia back in April, and he's arriving right now. He's been punting, so that's what they do. They train punters. So Tory Taylor, who came through the same system as Archie Wilson, he arrived at Iowa and was the Big Ten punter of the year in his freshman season, having not played football, to my understanding. So that's what Nebraska is hoping to get. And as far as like the punt team, they were working on some of this rugby stuff in the spring, even without the man back there who's going to be putting foot to ball. Is it a little bit of a fire drill to get all of this stuff ready in the summer? Very limited interactions with the coaches in the summer, and then through 30 or so practices or 28 practices in August. Yeah, you would like more time, ideally, but they're going to have to make it work. And I think this is an aspect, a phase of the game that you can get done if you have the pieces that play in a short period of time.
Yeah, I would agree with that. A couple pizza takes here. Here we go from Civilized Savage on YouTube. This is just a comment, but we're gonna just throw it in the mailbag. Godfather's has always been a better pizza than Valentino's. Okay, so this is an Omaha versus Lincoln question, and I suppose, do we want to really wade into these waters, because it's very dangerous territory, very dangerous.
The thing that I would just say is that there's so many better options than both of them. Period.
I prefer Godfathers to Valentino's, but I generally agree with you. And then the other one was from Carnage Undone on YouTube, who just straight up says Valentino's is terrible pizza. I'm surprised that they've lasted this long.
They're an institution. Valentino's is.
Yeah,
it's like the signature pizza of Lincoln, and
you can't kill them.
Lazari's or Momo's or other pizza in Lincoln. Omaha has so much great pizza. But like, if I get Godfather's pizza or Valentino's pizza put in front of me, I enjoy it.
Sure.
It's good. I eat it. I eat too much of it. So yeah, pizza's great.
People oftentimes will misconstrue because I have sort of like rigid takes on pizza. Like, I got after you for your whole pineapple pizza thing, and I don't regret that. But like you just said, how you just characterized it. If you put it in front of me, like if it's there, sure, it's fine, it's accessible, and I'm going to eat it and probably have a fine time while doing so. I'm not going to just say, throw it in the garbage. That's terrible. No, it's great.
I had a lot of Godfather's pizza growing up because there were a lot of them in close proximity to where I lived and had access to them. And
Exactly. It's
if
accessibility.
if I go like a couple years and don't have Godfather's pizza, and then I just get that smell, like if it's on the table somewhere, oh, it brings back memories, and it's really good.
This is why this is my whole backstory of like, picking my favorite baseball team. Why did I start liking the Royals? Because they were on. They were there. The ballpark was 3 hours away from my house.
Right.
It was like that's in proximity for the other major league teams. That's the closest one. It's not because they were good. It's not because it was high quality. They sucked. They were horrible, but I still like them.
You're too young to remember 85. So
I am.
Yeah. All right. Let's take a break, come back, and we got some questions about what's going on in the transfer portal these days, or at least one question about that. That is coming up next. Welcome back. Third and final segment, last segment of the week. Thanks for joining us on the Locked On Nebraska podcast. Mitch Sherman, Connor Happer with you. So we go to Greg, who's still in Tulsa. In the mailbag, he says, if Nebraska adds any 2025 portalers at this point, do we have to subtract players currently on the roster, or just add them, or does nobody really know for now? Thank you.
I think it's the latter. Nobody really knows at the moment, but everybody has been led to believe that there will not be strict roster limits implemented when this whole thing gets settled. So I think the answer is going to be no. They won't have to remove anybody from the roster at this point. But really, the answer is nobody knows.
We don't really know when the grandfathering would begin. And that's one thing that is going to have to be straightened out when the settlement goes through, if it goes through. Is it players who were on the roster on June 1st, July 1st, August 1st, when the season starts? Do you back date it to sometime in the spring arbitrarily? I'm not sure. I think it'll probably be maybe around July 1st when revenue sharing begins. If you're on the roster, then you don't have to count against the 105. But yeah, we don't know. It's a month away and we still don't know.
Yep.
Should we go to Shane, more on the House settlement. He says, not sure how this makes sense. Division I schools will revenue share 20.5 mil. I realize that not all can afford that, and not every athlete will get paid, nor does it include the NIL deals. All correct so far. Mm-hmm. Huskers have 20-ish sports, depending on how you count a few of them. Michigan has 27-ish. That is a lot more athletes. Then you have schools like Creighton with only 14-ish sports, but no football. Trying to understand the parity of this settlement. It doesn't make sense to Shane. Also, does this open the door for teams in conferences like the teams in the Big East, conferences like the Big East, to take over basketball? No wonder it is taking so long for the judges' decisions. Love the show. Always my first listen. Have a great day.
All right, good. An everydayer. We love to hear that. Thank you, Shane. So no, I mean, like, as much as you want to hear that, as much as the Big East schools want to tell you that, like, oh, hey, this is like a window of opportunity for us to like really get a leg up on our power conference brethren. No, I mean, they don't have the football money, so they won't be funding the full 20 and a half. There's no way that they can do that. So they'll spend what they think they can on the sports they think they can spend it on. And for some of the other sports, at a place like Nebraska, where they're going to fund the whole 20 and a half, not all of them are going to get it. And only select players on some of the teams are going to get, like, it's not going to be like a super fair and equitable situation for everybody.
If you look at it on a specifically local level and just compare Nebraska and Creighton in basketball, Creighton obviously is not getting the $70 million check that Nebraska is, but it's still getting a check from the Big East that's a lot smaller. I think where it comes, where it's hard to compare is for Nebraska, the number one priority is always going to be football. And if you are looking for extra dollars for another sport, be it basketball, men's or women's, volleyball, baseball, wrestling, softball, whatever it might be, you always have to consider that you're taking dollars away from football because there's a finite cap on that $20.5 million. At Creighton, the number one sport, the number one priority is always going to be basketball. So if you're taking something away, if you're giving something to another sport, baseball, soccer, volleyball, etc., then you're taking it away from men's basketball. So if there is a rich Big East school, it could have an advantage because basketball would be the number one priority. I think in theory, there are Big East schools out there that don't play football or don't prioritize football like UConn and could end up being the biggest spenders or some of the biggest spenders in men's basketball.
I'm with you. And the word is perfect. Like, it is about what you prioritize. So that is what Big East schools can sell to prospective student athletes or whatever, telling people around the country, hey, here, we prioritize basketball first. Big Ten and SEC programs just won't do that. They can't, and they won't. So I don't know if it leads to them getting a leg up, but they could certainly, put themselves in that light and in that image.
Okay, let's get through some questions here. We got one more about football and then some baseball questions. We'll go through these fast because I want to get to the end, the last one. From Titus, really enjoy the podcast. Realistically, how good does the Nebraska offense and defense have to be to win 9 or 10 games this year? Will this be the year where the offense is better than the defense? Quickly on that, I don't necessarily, I'm not ready to say that the offense is going to be better than the defense. To win 9 or 10 games, I think Nebraska has to be a top 30 or 40 team on both sides of the ball.
Yep. Well said. I would agree with that completely.
Okay. And then a question from Titus on baseball. What are the chances of Nebraska beating Oklahoma on Friday? Do you think that if Nebraska loses that game, they get past Holy Cross and then either Oklahoma or North Carolina, or do the Huskers go 1-2 and head home? I want to take that.
I think I think you, as the 3 seed, you don't want to be 0-2, right? You want to stick around and give yourselves a shot. And I do think as they go deeper in the weekend, that maybe the tables get turned in their favor a little bit with we've talked about how they've set up pitching and stuff like that. So maybe you don't beat Oklahoma the first time, but maybe you come back and you beat them the second time or something like that.
Right. They play well with their backs against the wall. They've shown to be resilient in those kind of situations, but like everybody else, or just about everybody else, Nebraska's going into this thing with the goal. The only goal there is to win the regional. Okay, from our friend Scott in Windsor, Ontario. Shout out to Canada. He says, shout out to the Husker baseball team. Nails. It's not just luck. It's a mindset. It's a love of competing. It's a relishing of pressure. I wish the football team had some of the mental fortitude when the fourth quarter comes around in the biggest games, or even when filling out and committing to the schedule. Oh, okay. Nice. I see what he's saying about the Tennessee series. Yeah.
Hey man, it's they've totally turned the narrative on their season, and it happened as a result of a Michigan State right fielder dropping a pretty routine play, but they got an inch and they took a mile, as I've said a couple of times in this podcast. Like, you got to give them credit. They took advantage of a situation that was handed to them, and so they've done a good job with that. Like, and yes, what you do in the postseason, in the Big Ten tournament and the NCAA tournament, shapes the narrative of your program. And so they've completely flipped that over the last week.
Speaking of our friends from Tennessee, did you see what happened Thursday in the Women's College World Series?
No.
Tennessee was 1 out from a opening round victory against 4-time defending national champ Oklahoma. Had Carlin Pickens, the ace who beat Nebraska twice last week. She gave up a 3-run walk-off bomb. The Sooners continue to work their magic in their hometown College World Series event. That hurt. Man. That hurt. It was dead center. She was, I believe it was 2 outs, bases empty, 3-1, and then Oklahoma got 2 on base and took the Vols ace deep. So they're hurting. They're hurting right now. We feel your pain. Okay, here is Vince and Napa. Happy Friday, fellas, from your boy. I love having our town pinned where I've lived 46 of my 52 years. I emailed the mailbag earlier this year about how I wanted to see the baseball team finish with authority, even though there was no baseball version of the Pinstripe Bowl or the Crown Tournament. Well, I consider the Big Ten tournament title in a similar light because anything this team does from here is extra sauce on my pasta. When this team was playing poorly to start the Big Ten, it was not promising. The team is a prime example of adopting the personality of its leader, Will Bolt. I remember him as a player in the Dave Van Horn era. He fought with bloody knuckles, and his team did the same this season and has throughout his time as a head coach. Here's to baseball doing some damage in the regionals, and hopefully football and men's basketball riding the crest.
Shout out to Vince for getting in his classic catchphrase, the bloody knuckles. Vince calls into our post-game shows all the time on 1620 The Zone and really, really lets it go like WWE style. And, you know, the end cap is fighting with bloody knuckles. So you gotta play the hits. I love it. And yeah, I think they're starting to show a little bit of that Will Bolt grit that it may not have looked like they had in the middle portion of the season.
Yep. Yeah, Will's got bloody knuckles. You want to take us home and read this question, last one?
I would love to. Yes, thank you. Here is from this is a comment from Steven from YouTube. Here he says, Mitch, pretty crappy comments about Will Bolt. Like the assumption he is just going to sit back and try and not use the conference tournament run to hit his advantage. Do you think that you should be the Nebraska coach to say Nebraska won't get out of Chapel Hill? You have been hanging around Connor Happer too much. The Huskers have a puncher's chance. I'm bookmarking this. It's going to be rough if they go 3-0.
It is going to be rough if they go 3-0, right? What happens if Nebraska goes 3-0 and wins the regional? I mean, how rough is that going to be?
Sometimes it would be
it would be great.
Rough I've ever, it would be
Nebraska's like, going to a super regional at Oregon. Oh my goodness, this is rough.
Yeah, it would be not my exact image of rough. Yes,
Steven's bookmarking it though.
I like it. People make incorrect predictions, and I would argue that based off of the body of work that we had seen from Nebraska baseball, it was completely within the realm of possibility that they don't actually win this regional, considering they are.
Come on now. Steven says they're going 3-0.
All right, let's do it.
I don't know. The crappy comments about Will Bolt, I think he's talking because this came in response to something that we said or that I said on the show, which was, to paraphrase myself, okay, it's great that Nebraska won the conference tournament. But don't let the success cover up some of the things that need to be fixed from what we saw in the 3 months before. Like, you should still address that and strive to get better as a program over the course of a season. That's okay, right? Was that pretty crappy?
I don't think that's crappy, Mitch. No, but at the same time, you have been accused of hanging around me too much. So I don't know, maybe that's rubbing off on you at this point. No, I think you'll see it during the offseason. Like, Will Bolt will go back and they'll make some changes and they'll see what they need to do better and all of those things. So I think what you said, the plan that you laid out for them will actually come to fruition, regardless of if they go 3-0 or don't in the regional.
You always look to make changes, make adjustments in the offseason.
Yep.
All right, Nebraska, Oklahoma, 4 p.m., ESPN Plus. Today, we will be watching. We will be back on Monday to discuss. Yeah, you will. I will not. I will not be around next week. We're going to have to figure out whether I participate in any kind of a show next week.
This will be good for you. You need to get away from me, and just maybe you'll get a fresh new outlook on life.
I'm going to miss. I'm going to be still around, like within cell service range for the regionals this week. If anything goes to Monday, then that's probably a no, which some things will go to Monday. So I don't know how I'm going to deal with this, but I'm supposed to be relaxing. My family's relaxing. We're celebrating my daughter's high school graduation from earlier this month, and I'll be at a luxurious destination somewhere on the open seas. So,
oh yeah, beautiful.
All
okay,
right.
so maybe I shouldn't say, like, maybe you appear still on a podcast, at some point next week. But we'll.
I don't know. I don't know how we're going to do that, because we were going to record something early, and then I just realized that we wouldn't have the results of the baseball regional if we do that. So let's talk about this off air, and you may see me next week. You may not.
Probably not.
That's it for today. I'll take us out. Thanks for listening to us at the Locked On Nebraska podcast. And we want to remind you that Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. And now it's available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app.